Our topic for today is capital market Sukuk, Islamic bonds. You know, you were studying bonds in the last class. So now you are going to have a introduction of Islamic bonds. Sukuk, we call it Sukuk. So, okay. Can you tell us what the Sukuk are? Very good, very good. So I shared a link for reading, okay? Those who have Kindle, they can easily access without making any payment. Those who don't have Kindles, they maybe have to pay $2-3. Okay. So you are right, Sani, you said very well that in case of Sukuk, it's not a loan. Actually, you are buying some asset. It would be like that one of our asset, for example, one of our building, we will use for Sukuk and we will sell that building to the investors. Now money is coming to us and this building is now belong to the investors. But you know, investor is not going to take benefit of this building. So what we do, we take from them back on rent. So the rent which we will pay to them, that will be a compensation to them. In case of conventional bonds, you pay interest after 6 months. In case of Sukuk, we will pay you the rent of the building. So it will work maybe for 5 years or 10 years. After that, we buy back the building from investors and money is refunded to them. So that's how Sukuk work. Yani Sukuk works like a bond. You will see later on there are different types of Sukuk, but I am telling you Sukuk al Ijarah. So in order to issue the Sukuk, you need to have an asset and you will sell that asset to the investors, and return of investors, profit of investor will be generated from the use of that asset. So that is the basic mechanism of Sukuk. So these are learning objectives of this topic. So here we go. According to Sharia standard number 17, as I told you earlier, I think I have not told you, there is a book we call Sharia standard. This book is issued by AOFI, Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institution. There are people from multiple countries, you know, it's a very good, it's a collective, you know, ijtihad. Ijtamai ijtihad. In a way, it's a ijtamai ijtihad. So they have a board and they look into an issue and then they develop a standard, then board, you know, pass that standard, give approval of that standard. So there is a book, we call it Sharia Standards. I would recommend that you download this book. It's a free of cost and you read it because you are living in GCC, and in GCC, Islamic finance is growing at a rapid speed. So I'm writing here Sharia Standards from AOFI website. It's a free of cost. So you must download and read these standards so that you can understand. So according to standard Sharia standard number 17, investment Sukuk are certificates equal value representing undivided shares in ownership of tangible assets, or usufruct, or services, or in the ownership of the assets of a particular project or special investment activity. So you can have multiple type of Sukuks. However, this is true after receipt of the value of the Sukuk, the closing of subscription, and the employment of funds received for the purpose for which the Sukuk were issued. Sukuk are tradable in the secondary market. So this is another benefit of Sukuk. If you have Sukuk and you want to keep, say, for 3 months or 6 months, then you want to sell, you can sell in the market at whatever prevailing price in the market is. You can sell it. There is empirical evidence to suggest that Sukuk structures were used within Muslim societies as early as the Middle Ages, where papers representing financial obligations originating from trade and other commercial activities were issued. The word Sukuk can also be traced back to classical commercial Islamic literature used in reference to certificates for goods or groceries. Sukuk al Badaya, as the method of paying the salaries of government officers who would later redeem such certificates in line with their day-to-day consumption of such goods or groceries. So it's not something new that we made a modified form, but it was there in Islamic societies for centuries ago. However, the Sukuk as understood in its contemporary form originates from a decision of the Islamic Jurisprudence Council dated 6 to 11 February 1988, which provides that any combination of assets or the usufruct of such assets can be represented in the form of written financial instruments, which can be sold at a market price, provided that the composition of the group of assets represented by the Sukuk consists of a majority of tangible assets. So if you are issuing Sukuk, for example, you are selling your building to the investors, it's okay, no problem. But if you have a combination of assets, then the share of real assets should be more than the share of other assets. Majority of tangible assets. Tangible assets, assets which can be seen, like land, building, inventory, they are all tangible assets. Plant and equipment, machinery, transportation, etc. They are all tangible assets. Sukuk market has got momentum under Sharia compliant financial system. According to an estimate by Islamic Finance Foundation 2020, cumulative issue of Sukuk has crossed the mark of $1 trillion since the inception in 1996. In addition to corporate Sukuk, sovereign Sukuks are also issued by the governments in multiple jurisdictions, including Pakistan, Jordan, UAE, Thailand, Malaysia, Turkey, Indonesia, Bahrain, Qatar, Cayman Island, Singapore, Germany, Brunei, Gambia, and Kuwait. Sovereign Sukuks, yani government is issuing Sukuk. Government need money. Instead of issuing treasury securities, instead of issuing intermediate term government bonds or long-term government bonds, those governments issued Sukuk because, you know, government always have so many properties. So they can use one of the property. For example, airport can be used, a road can be used, a building can be used. I mean, you can use the any asset for Sukuk. So government has so many assets. So many governments have used this instrument to collect the money under Sukuk instead of issuing bonds or treasury securities. The concept of Sukuk is initially developed to replace the conventional bonds having features of fixed return, money back, security guarantee, and ready market for liquidation. These are the three components in conventional bonds, basically, right? So Sukuk were issued to replace the conventional bond. However, under Islamic financial system, even Sukuk cannot guarantee of all the features of a conventional bond. Why we cannot guarantee? Because we are selling you the building. Now you are the owner of the building. So maybe some risks are there. Different type of Sukuk offer varying degree of features of conventional bonds. Objective classification of Sukuk place them into either fixed return Sukuk or variable return Sukuk. Basic design of Sukuk is not a fixed return Sukuk, but practically the banks and financial institutions or governments which are issuing Sukuk, they design in such a way that investor gets a return, competitive return. And when we say competitive, we means it is comparable with conventional finance. Variable return Sukuks are very much similar to equity securities rather than conventional bonds. However, fixed return Sukuk carries some of the features of conventional bonds. Practically, almost all Sukuk issues so far have been designed in such a way that normal rate of return, usually linked with the interbank offered rate, could be provided to Sukuk holders. So in practice, we fix the rent. For example, if it is Sukuk al Ijarah, we fix the rent taking into account the interbank interest rate. We take that into account in order to make our instrument comparable with conventional bonds. Because Islamic financial system, people always keep in mind that we should not charge more or less from the customers as far pricing is concerned. In order to issue Sukuk, normally issuer creates a special purpose vehicle and transfer the ownership to it, which ultimately passes on to Sukuk holders in the form of certificates. Bank collects the amount from users of the facility in the case of Ijara Sukuk on behalf of the SPV and ultimately return is distributed to certificate holders. So actually, when you are selling your building, so people who are buying your Sukuk, they are not in front of you so that you can make an agreement of sale and purchase. So what you do, you create a SPV, special purpose vehicle, which work as a trustee on behalf of the Sukuk holders. So you are making dealing with that SPV as a trustee for the Sukuk holders. Depending upon the circumstances, some or all of the following parties participate in the process of Sukuk structure. Issuer, a person, company who sell the asset to many investors by dividing the total value into smaller denomination represented by Sukuk. So for example, you have an asset and you want to sell to the investors, it's a 1 million asset. So you will divide maybe into 1,000. So if you divide 1 million and 1,000, how much answer comes? 1 million divided by 1,000. What is the answer? Is it 100 or 1,000 or 10,000? So you will issue 1,000 certificates. Each certificate value 1,000. Arranger, a person, company engaged in arranging the issue of certificate. Okay. Underwriter, one who take responsibility for subscription of Sukuk by investors. As you know, we discussed earlier, underwriting means you are giving the guarantee. If public is not subscribing, you will subscribe all the issue. So underwriter. Rating agency, an agency who assign rating to the certificate. Because nowadays it has become a norm in the financial sector that whenever you issue new bond or new Sukuk, so you want to have a rating. So Sukuk also using the rating. Usually Sukuk get good rating. You know why Sukuk gets good rating? Sukuk is a selling of an asset. So when an asset is there, why not you will get a good rating? It's backed by, real asset, if we talk in financial terms. So when you are backed by real assets are there. So even if the company is not able to pay you, he's making default, asset is there, go sell asset and get your money back. Auditor, a person, firm engaged in the audit of the issue of Sukuk. And guarantor, a person or institution act as guarantee of returns to investors. This is very interesting. This last one. Ideally, it should not be there. Guarantor means that I'm issuing Sukuk and in order to give the confidence to the investors, I give the guarantee, he will pay you back. He will pay you back return. He will pay you back the principal amount. So this guarantee, although it should not be there, but in order to give confidence to the investors, someone give guarantee without charging anything. Just to give the investors a confidence. So this guarantee is used. Ideally, it should not be there. But because Islamic finance is new and people think because your securities are not fixed return, they are variable return, maybe we will not be able to get our money back. So that's why someone else come and say, okay, take it. I give the guarantee. Types of sukuk. Ownership in musharaka. Your money is going into musharaka, so you have ownership in the musharaka assets. Ownership in leased assets. Sukuk al Ijarah. Ownership in musharaka. Sukuk al Musharaka. Ownership in goods. Maybe Sukuk al Mudarabah. Ownership in service. Maybe Sukuk al Amal. I don't know. What is the Arabic of service? Sukuk al Khidmat. Ownership in investments. Sukuk al Istismar. Ownerships in crops. Ownership in musharaka may be Sukuk al Wakalah, Sukuk al Musharaka, and Sukuk al Mudarabah. You know, Wakala means you are getting money together and doing business. The guy who is doing business for you, he will charge a fee. So we say it's a Wakala, right? Sukuk al Musharaka, you are bringing money together. The guy who is managing, he is also contributing money. So it becomes shirka between you and managers. You know, sukuk, people who buy sukuk, they are scattered all over the world. They are not doing actually by themselves. They are not doing business. Someone is doing business for them. Sukuk al Mudarabah. Money is yours. Someone is acting as a manager, but he will not get the fee. He will get profit. So basically, Wakala and Mudarabah is the same thing. So how they are same thing? Yani the guy, the person who is managing business, he has not contributed money. But in Wakala, he will charge fee for his services. In Mudarabah, he will share in profit. So that is the difference between these two. Sukuk al Musharaka means that everyone is contributing money. The one who manages the business, he also contributing the money. And then you continue. Sukuk al Ijarah, ownership in leased assets. Ownership in usufruct. So that would be Sukuk al Ijarah. Ownership in goods. Sukuk al Mudarabah. Murabah is a type of sales under an Islamic financial system which is used by the bank. When a person, you buy the goods from the market and give to him on the profit. So we say it is Murabah. Sukuk al Salam, Salam goods. Salam is another type of sales where you pay money advance, goods come later on. Usually it is recommended for agricultural commodities. Sukuk al Istisna. So Istisna is used for those goods who are manufactured, ordered to manufacture. So that becomes Istisna. This is from Sanaya. So any of these type of sukuk is coming, we call it ownership in goods. Ownership in crops. Sukuk al Mudarabah. Mudara is agriculture, am I right? Sukuk al Musaka. Musaka is something watering, you know. Is it correct?
Yes, that one's correct.
Sukuk al Mugharasa. What is Mugharasa?
Like planting.
Planting the trees. Very good. So this can be agricultural sukuk. Yani, by the way, this sukuk is something in your hands. You can collect money for any project. You want to build a train in all states of UAE. You can issue sukuk and start building the track for train. You want to build a bridge, you want to build a water reservoir, you want to bring in new land, you want to, whatever you want to do, you can use sukuk, get money from the public, and start working on that. Similarities and differences between sukuk and bonds. In this slide I made only to give some sort of satisfaction to those people who always says, oh, what is the difference? What is the difference? Where is the difference? How Islamic finance is different? So that's why I use. Bonds are interest-based while sukuk are profit-based. When you say profit-based, it means profit is generated by the asset, then you distribute to the people who have invested money. Sukuk are backed by real asset, which is not the case with bonds. Bonds can be backed, cannot be backed, but Sukuk are always backed by real assets. Sukuk and bonds are providing almost same return based on interbank offered rate. So this is a pricing decision. All Islamic financial products are priced competitive, taking into account the pricing in conventional sector. Bonds are debt-based security, while Sukuk are equity-based securities. No one is supposed to give you money. They have not taken loan from you. Actually, they have sold you asset. Now this asset is yours. When they will buy back their asset, or if they don't have money, then this asset will be sold to someone else. So whatever money comes, that will go to you. So it's not a debt-based security. It's an equity-based security. Normally, bonds and Sukuk both are rated by a rating agency. It's okay. In addition to other legal requirements, Sukuk needs Sharia compliance, while bonds do not. So when we say Sharia compliant, of course, interest should not be there, and the money is not using for any haram purposes. So you have to take into account, which is not the case with bonds. Both Sukuk and bonds can be listed, or it can be unlisted. Listed mean they can be listed and traded on stock exchange, and they cannot be listed. Sukuk can be issued for a halal business only, which is not the case for bonds. For issue of Sukuk, an SPV is required. As I told you earlier, trustee is required between the guy who is selling the building, and then a trustee is required to deal on behalf of the Sukuk holders. Such demand for bond issue. Bonds are issued directly because it's a debt-based security. So the one who is issuing bond, he is telling you, give me your money for 5 years or 10 years as a loan. I will give you interest at this rate, and at the time of maturity, I will give you back. Both Sukuk and bonds can be issued by public as well as private sector. When you say public sector, it means government. When you say private sector, it means general public in the country. Sharia rulings. Issuing document, yani prospectus of Sukuk, must contain the following information, because this is the document which serves as a contract between you and the company who issue the Sukuk. You know, whenever you are making an agreement, so both parties should be present and sign that agreement. But in case of this type of activities like Sukuk and shares, you are not present. Yani your shareholders, your investors are not present. So you design the agreement and then you publish it as a prospectus. So whatever you have written in that prospectus, that is taken as an agreement between you and investors. You cannot say no to anything which you have mentioned in the prospectus. It must include all contractual conditions, information about participants in the issue, along with their rights and obligations, including issue agent, issue manager, originator, investment trustee, the guarantor of capital and returns, payment agent, and any other related party, along with conditions of appointment and dismissal. It must include the identification of the contract on the basis of which Sukuk are launched. Is it a Ijara Sukuk? Is it a Mudarabah Sukuk? Is it a Salam Sukuk? Is it a Musharaka Sukuk? Which type of Sukuk is this? It must clearly mention the Sharia compliance of issue duly certified by the Sharia board. There should be a certificate from the Sharia people. It must clearly state the investment of realized funds will be taken through Sharia compliant modes of investment. It should state that each owner of a certificate participates in profit and losses. It must not include the guarantee of capital or return by issuer to Sukuk holders, except in case of negligence. However, it is allowed to an independent third party to provide guarantee free of charge. Trading in Sukuk and redemption on profit and loss is allowed after closing subscription, allotment of Sukuk, and commencement of the activity. However, in following cases, rules of debt and currency trade, Bal, Dine, and Surf shall be applicable in trading and redemption of Sukuk. In case of Ijara Sukuk, ownership and assets after subleasing of the underlying asset by the lessee. In case of Ijara Sukuk, where ownership is in usufruct before ascertainment of an asset to be leased. In case of Istisna Sukuk, when the price paid in parallel Istisna contract and our manufactured goods are delivered to the ultimate purchaser. In case of Salam Sukuk, cannot be traded except on par as per rule of trading of debts. Murabaha Sukuk, prior to the purchase of an asset and after selling of assets under Murabaha. Prior to commencement of the activity, conversion of cash into assets. If you are trading Sukuk, you will take into account the rule of Sarf and rule of Dain, which means neither more nor less. You have to trade at par value. Liquidation of activity and assets converted into receivables. These are the situations where you cannot trade your Sukuk at premium or discount, at profit or loss. They have to be traded at par value because their status is Dain and Sarf. The rule of Dain and Sarf applies in these situations which are mentioned here. Other than that, you can sell your Sukuk at profit or you can sell your Sukuk at loss, whatever is the prevailing market price. Underwriting is allowed without any charge. Sukuk of any duration are allowed, including short-term, medium-term, long-term, and indefinite period of time. Risk mitigation through profit equalization reserve and permissible insurance is allowed. Redemption of Sukuk by the issuer at market price or an agreed price at the time of redemption is allowed. Redemption means when you are calling back the Sukuk and giving money to the Sukuk holders. However, it is not allowed to stipulate in the prospectus by the issuer as of redemption at nominal value. Because if you are writing in prospectus, after 5 years, I will buy back my building at the same price. So that means you are giving the guarantee of return to the investors. You can't write that in your prospectus. As far buyback is concerned, you can buy back at any price. You can buy back your property at any price, but at the time of buying. It is permitted immediately upon the issue and up to the date of maturity, but after the passing of ownership of the assets to the Sukuk holder, to trade in Sukuk that represent ownership of existing leased assets or assets to be leased on the promise. So these are Sharia rules, summary Sharia rules, which you need to take into account while dealing with Sukuk. This is a design of Sukuk al Ijarah. I taken this from, okay. Now look at this to understand that how Sukuk is designed. Starting from 1, ending at 11. Take 1 minute and have a look on this. So these are the number explained. If you have any issue, you can read these numbers later on, right? No problem. You can read these numbers later on. The numbers are wrote in detail. Number 10 and number 11. So if I quickly have a discussion, number 1, you are selling certificates to the investor, money comes to you in number 2. Number 3, you pay this money to the issuer, so asset comes to you, that is 3, 4. Number 5, you lease the asset to the same person who sold the asset. And number 6, he pay you the periodic rentals. And number 7, you appoint as a service agent for that asset. And number 8, you give money, periodic money to the Sukuk holders. At number 9, you sell asset back to the person who has originally who has originally sold the asset to SPV. SPV will sell back to that person. Number 10, you get the exercise price, yani the price which you agreed on which you are taking asset back. And number 11, you give the dissolution amount to your investors. This is an example of Sukuk al Ijarah, which was issued in Pakistan in when it was issued in 2005. So as you can see, the issuer was Pakistan International Sukuk Company Limited, and lead manager was Citigroup, and asset was M2, yani motorway between Lahore and Islamabad. Status was senior subordinated. Unsubordinated mean the first claim. Structure Sukuk al Ijarah, seller of highway asset, National Highway Authority. Lessee was Government of Pakistan, listed on Luxembourg Stock Exchange. Size of issue 600 million. Issue date 2005, maturity 2010. Profit rate was LIBOR plus 2.20 per annum. Profit payment semi-annually. Minimum holding amount per investor US dollar 1,000. Registrar was City Global Market Tadawul. Payment administrator was Citibank, and local advisor was Mizan Bank. So this was Sukuk al Ijarah, issued by the government of Pakistan in 2005, and it was retired in 2010. Another example of Sukuk, this is a Sukuk al Wakalah. So see the details of Sukuk al Wakalah. So under Sukuk al Wakalah, at number 1, Sukuk certificate is issued. Number 2, money is coming to you as a SPV. Number 3, you are buying a portfolio of underlying investments. And number 4, you are giving that money to the originator from whom you buy this portfolio of investment. Number 5, you appoint him as a wakil. And number 6, income from portfolio is generated. Number 7, after taking his fee, he is giving revenue to you. Number 8, you give to your investors periodic distribution. Number 9, he purchased back the portfolio of investments. And number 10, he pay the exercise price to you as a SPV, who is the trustee. And number 11, you distribute the dissolution amount to your investors. So these graphs are made by Kilford Chance. It's a consulting company. They worked in the area of Sukuk consultancy. So these are the steps. If you are interested, you can later on read. Later on, you can read by looking at recording, and stopping here, you can read, no problem. Okay. So here is an example of Sukuk al Istismar, investment sukuk, which was issued by Saudi Electric Company. And its lead manager was, who was lead manager? Lead manager was Samba. Okay. Lead manager was Samba Capital and Investment Management Company, HS and HSBC Saudi Arabia. Okay, and status senior, unsubordinated, unsecured. Structure Sukuk al Istismar, size of issue was 7 billion. Issue date 2010, expire on 2030 with purchase undertaking option on 17/20/25. So you can say call option, you know. In bonds, we discussed this call option. Profit rate is SIBOR plus close to 1%, yani 0.95%. Profit payment quarterly, minimum holding amount per investor, Saudi Riyal 10,000, registrar Tadawal, payment administrator Samba Financial Group. And, holders agent SABB Securities. Okay, this is another type of sukuk. I guess this is also from Saudi Arabia. Yes, combination of al Istisna and al Ijarah. Al Istisna and al Ijarah KSA. So this was issued in, when this was issued by Al Bilad Investment Company, and the certificate constitute undivided beneficial ownership in the Sukuk assets and represent direct, secured, unconditional, and subject to the conditions, unsubordinated obligations of the issuer, ranking equal without any preference or priority among themselves. The Sharia structure of the Sukuk is essentially a combination of Istisna and Ijara with a Musharaka contractual overlay interposed between the two. Size of issue was 7.5 billion. Issue date 2013. Maturity scheduled to be on the periodic distribution date immediately following the final distribution date, being no later than December 15, 2028. The issuer also has the option to redeem the certificate in full on any periodic distribution date after the 5th anniversary of the closing date in accordance with the conditions. Yani after 5 years, you have call option. Profit rate 6 months SIBOR plus 0.95%. Profit payment semi-annually. Collateral pursuant to the issue security department, the issuer will grant security over the Sukuk assets to the onshore issuer security agent and offshore issuer security agent, as the case may be. Each of whom will hold such a security for the benefit of inter alias the certificate holders. Minimum holding amount was Saudi Riyal 1 million for a period of 6 months from the closing date, and thereafter Saudi Riyal 50,000. And registrar was Saudi Stock Exchange, Tadawal. Payment administrator HSBC Saudi Arabia Limited, and holders agent HSBC Saudi Arabia Limited. This is another sukuk, which is Sukuk al Mudarabah, issued in KSA. And this was issued, when this was issued, I don't know. This was issued, okay. Saudi Hollandi Bank and lead manager Saudi Hollandi Capital, Riyadh Capital, status senior unsubordinated structure Mudarabah Sukuk, size 725 million, issue date 2009, maturity 2019, with a call option in 2014. Profit rate SIBOR plus, margin 190 BPS. Huge, by the way. It's close to 2%, SIBOR plus 2%. Profit payment 6 monthly, collateral none, minimum holding amount per investor, Saudi Riyal 500,000, register at Tadawal, and payment administrator is Saudi Hollandi Capital. Application of Sukuk a mini case Kalabagh water reservoir.